So welcome back to the Lift Your Life podcast. We are joined, it's been a long time since I've had a guest on. I've just been sat doing this on my own for too long. And the other day I was like, I'm getting bored of doing this on my own. I can't just keep coming up with topics. So I was like, right, I'm going to get a load of guests on. So I threw a message into a little group chat that I'm in with a load of absolutely amazing women who are girls that I met through the mentorship, girls that actually didn't actually come to Dubai with us either time, but you were there in spirit. So it feels like you were there. So she is one of my amazing mini inner circle humans. So I've got Ashley on the podcast, and the reason that I wanted to bring her on as well is because she's got a really amazing story, a really amazing message, and I want to share that with the world. So I'm going to do a really awkward thing for you now and make you introduce yourself, and you've got to give a bit of a fun fact about yourself. So something that I know it's like that.
Oh my god, no, it's fine.
If you're watching the video back, you'll see her facials there, like her face is like
I'm like so boring. Do I have any fun facts? No, it's fine.
It's that question like what you get with a job interview, isn't it? When they say, tell me something about yourself, and you're like, I don't know, I don't do anything.
I've got one now, so I'm good.
Wonderful. So on that note then, introduce yourself, who you are, who you coach, what you do, and the fun fact about yourself.
Okay. So my name's Ashley, and I've nearly said 30, but I am 29. I'm not 30. I keep saying I'm 30 before I'm ready. So I'm not 30 quite yet, but I'm an online coach, and I help women kind of get their confidence in the gym. We help women lose body fat as well, but mainly when it comes to kind of anyone that has anxiety in the gym, a little bit nervous when they're like beginners and things like that. So we coach a lot of clients like that. Fun fact about me, this is embarrassing, but when I was 15, I used to do ballroom and Latin dancing, and I was like, I think I came 5th in the world. Well, not the world, I think it was UK nationals.
There's a bit of a difference there between the world.
Well, yeah, UK, it was definitely the UK because it was in Blackpool. Don't forget that. But yeah, so I came 5th in ballroom of the nationals. So yeah, that's the fun fact about me and dancing. So yeah.
I never saw you as a ballroom dancer, but
I
every day.
I gave it up when I was like 16, pretty much. I was like, wanted to go out with my mates and not dance anymore. So
yeah, and you just get to that point, I think, when you get to about 16, 17, 18, unless you're going to go professional, there's no way you can really like carry on doing it. So I used to do like street dance commercial. Like I wasn't the best, but I just really enjoyed doing it. Yeah. And when you got to 18, you weren't really welcome in the class anymore because you're a pensioner at that point. But yeah. I think the adult classes, it's either total beginners. It's like, I'm not a beginner, I'm not like inept, but I'm also not a professional. There's no middle ground, so I had to give it up.
And you get to that age where you're like, oh, my friends are out doing stuff, and I'm like, which my mum always said to me, don't give it up. But obviously went into fitness, which not obviously the same, but kind of down the same path of like teaching people and helping people.
It's something to move your body as well. So that leads to a very nice transition there of how the hell did you get into fitness? So you've said obviously you started dancing. So what were you around that sort of age? Were you doing any sort of sports younger as well? Did you enjoy doing anything when you were younger, or was it all just dancing?
It's quite a funny story really, because my friends all laugh because I have always been the laziest friend. So the one that would not walk anywhere, the one that would get a taxi, the one that just never ever like did any kind of sports, didn't do PE at school, always get my mum to write me a note, didn't like anything fitness based. So it's so strange that I moved into fitness. But the reason being was that for part of my younger, I'd say my teens, from the age of like 18 to the age, well, probably to where I am kind of just now, a couple of years ago, I struggled with really bad anxiety. And it, like, if I look back now, it probably was the lifestyle, just the rubbish nutrition, the rubbish kind of mindset was not a big thing in my family. We didn't talk about anything. We didn't look after ourselves. So there was obviously a big aspect of that. And I remember going to the doctors once, and they were like, go running, just go and run. And I was like, from a person that didn't even walk anywhere, I was like, no, I'm not quite sure about that. But me and my mum went to the gym. We literally just started going to the gym, knew absolutely nothing. Definitely didn't go into the weight section whatsoever. I can't remember what age I was. I must have been about like 20. And then we went to the gym together. I used to literally just walk on the treadmill, and I did that for about a couple of years. You know the people, right? They're just like,
we do.
Didn't know what I was doing, looked at the weight section, was like, never going in there. And then I met my now fiance, which I hate saying that word. I know we're getting married, but it's just a word that I hate.
He loved you for that, like my fiance.
I just always cringe. I always say my partner, because I hate saying fiance, it sounds cringy. But anyway, yeah, I met him and he was very much into weights, like, you know, the bodybuilding kind of world.
Yeah.
And I used to go with him quite a lot, and then it just flourished from there. And, you know, the anxiety like improved with the nutrition that I just dived into a little bit more, the training and things like that. So yeah, it's been a journey, but it's and I just feel like I wanted to help people that were in that same position, that wanted to get into the gym but just had, you know, no idea what to do. So yeah, that was a long-winded story there.
It's actually pretty short given how many years of your life you've covered there. So at what point then did you get to that transitional period of you were doing it for yourself, of, you know, I'm actually, you know, enjoying the weights and stuff, to then realizing that that was a career path? So what were you doing with yourself, like job wise, before that?
It was really strange because I used to work with children. So I used to work in a nursery with young babies. And I'll tell you what, that was a contraception in its own thing, because it's just like, it's hard work. But so I worked there, but then I worked for my parents for a long time after that. I was like the bookkeeper, that the accountant kind of thing. So completely different kind of career path. I think for the first few years of my fitness journey, I was just loving it for me, just going like feeling better, just seeing the improvements in myself. And I think it was when people started to notice the change in me, like my friends and people that knew me, and then they were asking for advice, like, I really want to get into the gym as well. Like I started documenting on my own Instagram as well. And then I think people were just asking, they were like, oh, can we go to the gym together? And I was like, yeah, cool. Like, well, we'll just go. And I'd obviously learned quite a lot from my partner, but then, you know, YouTube, just kind of learning as you go. And then I think it was when people started saying to me, you know, we really would like a bit more help from you. So then I went into being a full-time PT, and I was very lucky enough to, my dad owned like a little office unit thing. Okay. There was like a space downstairs, like a unit to rent. And I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to get some equipment and I'm going to start PTing friends in there. Didn't charge or anything. And then eventually just started, a few more people started to come, you know, friends of friends. Then I started charging, and then it was like my own little studio that I made. And yeah, it kind of went from there. So yeah.
That's so cute. I wish I had to have like an office space or anything like that.
They did make me pay rent, but I don't blame them, to be fair.
Like, best than, but it would be cheaper than what chain gyms will charge. Like, oh, it's crazy what they charge now. Like, I hear it from people, I'm like, that's like more than like a house.
I know.
Disgusting.
I know. Mental.
Absolutely disgusting. Yeah. Wicked. How did that transition to online then? So at what point did you actually start the online world? And then you've gone completely online now and don't do anything like face-to-face at all, right?
No, I think the change for me was I loved doing classes. I loved seeing people face to face. But what I was finding with clients is they were feeling great from the activity, but they weren't then getting the fat loss results that maybe I had got at that point. Because obviously from training, it was all for mental health for me, but I did see like the physical aspects as well. And it was, you know, what I would find is clients would come to the sessions, but then they'd do whatever they did in that 45 minutes, hour. And then they'd leave and think that they didn't need to do anything else, and their nutrition didn't matter and everything else. So I think from that aspect, it was like I needed more. And I felt like I could give more accountability online. I could, you know, catch up with them whenever in the day, you know, and things like that. And obviously I met Adam, OTE. I was kind of friends with Archie. He's from here where I live. So yeah, and then I just kind of, it all went online, and it just feels so much better because we do a lot of mindset now. We do kind of everything rather than just that 45-minute training session, which, you know, there's a lot more to it than just that. So
it was like the fulfillment of actually getting the full result and being able to delve into more than just what you do in those 45 minutes, 1 hour. And I was like the exact same. Like I loved it. Like classes and fun PT sessions, they're brilliant fun, but the reason we probably both got into this was more than that, like not just to have fun. This has changed our life. We want to bring the same, but that it's just not going to allow you to do that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with personal training. I really don't. I think it's got its time and its place. Like I really do. Like I think there's so much value in personal trainers still. But I think for people who are on that journey to changing and bettering their life, who need the nutritional and mindset shifts, I don't know how to shout it from the rooftops enough that PT is not the right thing for you. I know I'm not saying that just because I'm like, oh, that's my coaching, but genuinely because it's not going to do that.
Yeah. It is really like it, as much as, you know, I could have done, you know, nutrition on the side of my PT sessions, you physically don't have the manpower, because you're, you know, if you want to see as many clients, and, you know, in your day, you then can't go home after your PT sessions and, you know, message everyone, catch up, check in. And it's really, really difficult to do that. But again, I was just finding that, you know, that 45-minute session, you know, you chat and things like that, but you couldn't put structures in place in people's lives and, you know, mindset, you know, habits, and teach them about mindset. There just wasn't enough hours in the day as well. So, you know,
there still isn't, but
well, no, there isn't. But yeah, I feel like when I went online, the results from clients came in quicker, but I was also able to go along with the mindset stuff that I'd kind of learned along the way, the things that I'd learned. I've been able to do like webinars and teachers and things like that, which, you know, with PT, the hours of PT, you just couldn't physically do that. So yeah, it kind of merged onto online, and as much as I miss seeing people face to face, we still do a lot of, you know, events and, you know, things like that the community is still there. So yeah.
Amazing. Wonderful. So you mentioned at the start about getting into this because of like the mental health side of things. I know that's something you were quite passionate to talk about. So what were the main changes that you noticed in yourself through working on yourself? So I think it really angers me. I know it's actually really good that your doctor actually told you to go do like running and stuff, because most of the time when people are experiencing a lot of, you know, anxiety or mood related issues, the first thing or the biggest thing is just take this. Yeah. Just take that and you'll be sound. Just go and have a bubble bath and have this antidepressant and life will be great. And it doesn't really solve anything. It doesn't fix anything. So it's actually really good that you've got, even though running is shit, I agree, you got that advice. So what was kind of like that initial journey for you then, from obviously then starting doing like more exercise and fitness, and what impact did you actually start to see and feel happen as a result?
Yeah, well, firstly, I definitely did get a few doctors that wanted to give me tablets, but I was always dead set. I was like, I just didn't want to be put on tablets, because my biggest fear was like, will I ever come off them? And I didn't want to be on something for life. So I got given a lot. And even at one point I took the prescription home and had them in my like bedside table for like ages. But I was like, no, like everyone kept saying to me, oh, you're making it harder on yourself. But I was like, no, I really despise, not that I don't think that anyone shouldn't take them, but for me, I just really wanted to not. And there was plenty of times that I felt like I should have done, but I just really didn't want to. But yeah, I just think for me, the changes that come from it was building the confidence in myself. I really struggled with, like, my biggest thing was like the anxiety and panic attacks, you know, public places or just anywhere. So going into the gym was like, wow, this is big for me. You know, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? You know, are people going to judge? And I think just there was a lot of times I failed, like, you know, walked in the gym, walked back out again and things like that. But there was a lot of times where I didn't. And I think it was building the kind of confidence in myself to say, oh, you can actually do this. And, you know, with the weight training, it's like when you're lifting something that you don't think that you can lift and you do it anyway, that for me really connected with my anxiety, because it was like, well, I think I can't do all of these things. I don't have confidence, but actually I can. And it was proven to myself over and over again that, yeah, can push myself, can do things. And then again, with the nutrition, you know, if your life is fueled by, you know, quite high processed foods, and I'm not saying that you can't have processed foods, I still do, definitely. Had a McDonald's last night, but there we go. But, you know, if it's fueled by alcohol, processed sugar, you aren't gonna, you know, that does affect your mental health. So it's really important that I change that up. And then I just was finding myself more confident, more energy. I wasn't as lethargic, and just things started to improve. It wasn't perfect straight away, but over the years, things started to really, really connect. And then obviously, you know, I went to therapy, and all of it together, growth physically, growth mentally, it just really helped. So
amazing. Love that. What do you think then in society, and this is quite a big question, but like in society, because the issue we've got with like in society, that mental health is probably the most prominent it's ever been, which I don't know whether it's that more people are talking about it, or whether it is actually just the way life is right now is kind of designed to make us stressed. It's designed to make us anxious, just the whole way it's set up with society. And we could even get deeper and say, is it meant to be doing that? You know, is it all part of the plan, you know, pharmaceuticals? But I'm not going to go down that political route. But there'll be a lot of people listening to this who are in that boat, who've got some sort of struggle. or if we were just to say this generally across the board, what things do you think more people need to be aware of within the power of health and fitness in relation to mental health? So what, let's say you were a doctor, right? What would you be actually prescribing people to do, and why? Because of the benefit that it can have, if you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, so it's definitely the smaller things that I think people don't necessarily think of. I think therapy's got to be one of them things. I know that's obviously not in the health and fitness thing, but for me, I think we can, like we said about medication, we can give out medication, but it just helps you float. It's a bit like if we go into the whole hormonal contraception, it just kind of floats the boat for that time being, and that's a whole nother topic. But I think, with therapy, you're talking about the things that potentially you're feeling and things like that, and then alongside that, if you're training for your mindset more than anything, it's therapy in itself. But I think the small things that people can do every day is just taking some time, because we lead such busy lives, right? So we're constantly on the go, we're constantly work, come home, you might do your washing, you might do your cleaning, you're constantly running from that mind. And I think we've kind of in society been taught to keep busy. If you're feeling a little bit of a way, or you're feeling, I won't say depressed, but down low, whatever it is, people will talk, keep busy, just do this, but actually sometimes just sitting with yourself and going and understanding emotions. I think that was one big thing for me, going quite deep into it, but it was like I didn't understand what I was feeling. It was like, that's an anxiety feeling, and that's okay, that's just a normal emotion. But we're not taught necessarily all these different emotions and what they can be, and all of that sort of thing. So my biggest piece of advice is like sitting with yourself and understanding that as well, things like journaling, and going down that aspect. We do a lot of nutrition and training, but it's always the mindset. If you can kind of grasp onto that and improve that, everything else will come with it as well. So hopefully I've answered that question well. I'm not sure if I have gone off on tangents there.
No, definitely. And what have been the biggest mindset shifts that you've had, do you think, that have really changed the game for you over the last few years?
Not worrying what people think. I think that's a big one, that in this society we are, you've got your Instagram now, you've got social media, and we're so conscious of like sharing our highlight reel. So if there's something that's not so great, that we can feel a little bit down and out about that, and like not wanting to share that. So it's really important to kind of just remember that there are a lot of people in the same boat, but it's just not shared. It's not shown, is it, really, in everyday life, and it's not shown on Instagram and things like that. So I've totally gone off on a tangent now. Can't remember what you said to me. What was the question?
Biggest mindset shifts that have changed your life forever?
Yeah, so it's definitely got to be like confidence and not worrying so much about what people think, for sure. Especially doing a business like this. I don't think I really thought about it whenever I sort of created AFRM coaching. I just went with what felt right. I didn't think too much into it, which is something that I'd never done before. I'd always overthought everything. But when you do something like this and you are sharing on Instagram and you kind of, open up and you're a little bit more vulnerable, you have to be open to judgment, and you have to be open to people maybe not liking you or not agreeing with what you do. So that's been for me a really great journey, and obviously connecting with other people that have felt low, and I've been able to bring them up as well. So I think it's a bit of everything, but the biggest thing for me that helped me shift was generally not caring about what other people think. But that's not easy to get to. I think it takes a lot of failures and a lot of times to be at lower points to get to that point as well. But yeah, what
you mentioned there about connecting with people, I think that's another thing that's massively undervalued within fitness, is the power of the connections that you make. So I think generally, again, this is getting quite deep, society, and especially in the UK, that culture is very negative and pessimistic, right? How's your day been? Oh, most people are going to say something bad. When people put on something, oh, I don't like how I look ugly in this. Oh, bad weather. It's very rarely do people like, hi, it'd be weird to be really happy. But what I found about like the health and fitness space and just network in general is that the mindset and mentality for most people is that they're committing to doing something to better themselves. And I think that energy radiates. So when I got into the gym, I felt so much more positive and just uplifted in life.
Yeah.
And I'm meeting people, like obviously my client base is one, but like you guys, it's such a positive little network. And I think from a mental health perspective, that is something that not a lot of people realize, is that you are like a product of your environment. So if you are surrounded by very negative and pessimistic people, well, shit, cost of living, can't cope, life, you're just constantly internalizing that, which is going to have a knock-on effect on your mood. But the second that you can actually find an environment of people, whether that is joining coaching, working with like other clients, or even just going to a gym or a class and being able to connect with people, I think that it's definitely had a massive impact on my sort of self-belief, my confidence, my well-being. Would you say the same on that one?
Yeah, 100%. And you literally just remind me of the biggest mindset shift that I actually had when I was in my mid-20s that I completely forgot to mention. But I don't know if you've ever read the book The Secret from Rhonda Byrne. Like,
very good.
When I was at kind of my lowest point, I'd sort of go up and down throughout my 20s of like anxiety and confident times, but then anxiety again. And someone gave me the book The Secret, and I wouldn't say that was like instantly like I was amazing and everything felt better, but I think that mindset shift, just like you're saying, of surrounding yourself with positive people and positivity in general, and check, because my mind was very, very negative. It was like, oh, you know, I'm anxious again, and oh, like everything was the negative. And I think the spin that I've been able to change on that was, whenever I'm sort of negative about a situation, adding a positive in there. And that's something I say to clients all of the time. It's not like, oh, this fancy stuff where, you know, you got to meditate and sit there and all of that, you know. It's actually just going, well, what you surround yourself with, what's in here is going to be your reality. So it's just switching it up. And I think that was the biggest thing that I learned. And, you know, sort of, I used to write gratitude lists. I mean, I've got a little bit lapse in the last, well, I've been busy, you know how things come, and like, you know, you're just so busy. But, you know, it was inevitable. I'd be like writing gratitude lists every day, you know, I'd be reading The Secret like once a month and whatever. But that was a massive shift for me. It was changing that mindset and going, instead of saying, I can't do that, let's try to do that. And just changing them words up in your mind makes a huge difference.
It isn't. It's little things that you say or do that do have that impact. It's a bit like with clients who say like good and bad food, and it's like they don't think anything of it, but giving that food that label of bad creates that relationship, which then leads to you then avoiding it, having it, feeling the guilt. It's the same with the words we use. And I've literally said about 3 clients in check-ins today. So I think someone said something along the lines like, I'm going to try to do this week. I said, we're not going to try. I want you to talk like you've already done it, or that you are doing it, even though you might not believe that to be true. When you say, oh, I'll try, or I'll give it a go, you're already saying that I'm doubting myself. And that self-doubt is going to win. Whereas if you say, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Imagine something where you're like, I'm going to do it. Like you'd go with such confidence that you probably would at least give it your best, if not achieve it. And it is the same with the actions we take. But I think one thing that can massively impact those thoughts and perceptions is people. So it could be working, like my coach has really helped me with my mindset. I worked with a therapist, but it's not just those people one-on-one, it's the network. So it's being in a gym with people who maybe are pushing themselves hard or want to better themselves, and you can feel their energy. It's being in a community, whether that's a Facebook group, whether that's a client community group, whether that's, you know, we've met each other through a mentorship and we're just in our own little WhatsApp chat. And yeah, we have our little bitches and stuff and cry about stuff, but generally we'll have those days, won't we, where like you think you kicks it off the other month, like, right guys, let's do our wins, and we all shared it, and we were all just like pushing each other, and I was like, oh, this is amazing, it's so nice. And having those little pockets of environment, I think if I didn't have those, I wouldn't be the same person that I am. I wouldn't be as mentally headstrong as I am. It starts from yourself, but having those environments around you is everything. And I think if you take nothing from this podcast, have an audit of that. And if you don't have any environments around you that can bring that for you, have a think, because if you can find them and get them in your life, it will literally change everything.
Because that's, I think, the biggest misconception that I had about gyms. It was like, oh, they're intimidating, oh, they're scary. So you're like, oh, I don't want to approach anyone, don't want anyone to know I'm here, I just want to sit in the background. But actually, if you start to slowly, you know, build your confidence up to get in that environment, to maybe speak to a few people that you see in the gym regularly, you'll actually be matched with people that are all there feeling the same way, or even just, you know, producing that positive energy. They're all there to better themselves. I think every time that I used to go to a new gym, because new gyms used to scare me, not so much now, but I'd be like, well, actually everyone in here is improving themselves, working on themselves. And you just can't beat that kind of environment as well. And like other environments, and just having those positive people, I think there comes an age when you're younger where you either stay maybe around the negative people. I'm not saying that everyone has negative people around them, but there's that choice that you have to make and go, you know, I can suffer there and stay there, or I can go, I need something to change, something needs to change. So I think the society of when you leave school and you're younger and you're in your 20s and things like that can be really difficult. And I'll tell you what, I'm nearly 30 and I wouldn't go back to being in my young teens or early 20s, to be honest. Not at all.
I'm happy to park those years and never go back.
Shut them off. And like, yeah, I think it comes with growth time, you know, confidence comes over time, doesn't it? Really, it's not something that can just be had. It is those experiences and going through them. But yeah, I really think it's mindset. It comes down to kind of everything, you know, like you said about the good and bad foods. See that quite often, even with myself. That's where I was for a long time. It's like, well, I'm on a diet, so salad, veg, everything, no chocolate, no bread. And that's the biggest misconception that I had for so long. And when I realized actually that wasn't the case, it was like, wow, there's this whole new world of dieting, or, you know, bulking, whatever you're doing. It's totally different, isn't it?
Absolutely. So you obviously mentioned a lot about training and like the nutrition and mindset side of things, but a massive factor I think that's overlooked with, again, mental health and well-being is just the other lifestyle stuff that maybe isn't quite as sexy, but does have a huge impact. So I'm sure you'll discuss it with your clients as well. So things like sleep, things like stress management, things like maybe even looking into certain supplementation. So what's kind of your journey been with that? What were things like stress and sleep management like sort of before getting into training, and have you like got into those more? Have you got into supplements, anything along those lines that's really helped you out with overall well-being over the years?
Yeah, so I think one thing that I've never struggled with, which is quite unusual for someone who has, you know, quite high anxiety, sleep. I've always slept amazingly. Never ever had a problem with sleep. So I'm really lucky in that sense. So my sleep management was always pretty good, because as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm good. But obviously I have quite a lot of clients that struggle with that, because it does come down to the fact of if your mind is very active when you're going to bed, or you're quite stressed and overwhelmed, that can obviously impact your sleep quite a lot. When it comes to like supplements and things like that, I was under the impression that I don't need anything, like I just get all my nutrients from food and I don't need anything. But one supplement that I've seen a massive change in, and I think it's obviously stress, comes down to kind of relating with stress, is ashwagandha. Like, absolutely swear by it. Like, I'm not taking it at the moment because we've had a bit of a change up with my supplements and things like that with my coach now, because it came off hormonal contraception as well. So this is obviously a taboo subject.
Not on my podcast at all. We talk about it all the time.
Okay, so this is where I think also I noticed a massive mental health change. I came off the injection around 4 years ago now. And I think a year after that I'd come off, I started to notice things. I was like, wow, like, you know, I'm in a busy shopping center and I'm not thinking about where the nearest exit is, or just silly things that I would notice myself doing, but I'm really chilled. Like I was really calm, but I wasn't always like that. And I would like, you know, be in the gym, but go, okay, well, if I need to go, I can go, or, you know, this is my option, or this is my exit. And I was just finding like a massive difference in kind of my mindset, obviously with the things I'd learned as well along the way. But yeah, I'm not saying that the injection was, you know, the cause of that, but I started to notice changes in myself and, you know, my different levels and things like that as well. I'm really sorry, my dog's like scratching at the door. She's just like, what's going on in there?
You need to go see the dog.
No, it's fine. It's honestly fine. Let me let her in, and then she can just be in here because she won't bark and bark.
Yeah. What breed is she?
She's a border terrier. Come in.
Okay, she's cute. She can stay.
Hello. She won't bark if she's in here, so
that's sound. But yeah, on that topic, have you read the book How the Pill Changes Everything?
No, I haven't actually. Is it good?
It's very feminist. It's definitely the most feminist book I've ever read. But it's very interesting to hear about the impact of being on some sort of hormonal contraception, how it can impact like everything, pretty much like it's just in your body. So like mental health, physical health, digestion. It was pretty nuts actually reading it, because I wanted to give myself a bit of just more knowledge with my own issues. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting that you've said that. And I think it is really interesting hearing a lot of women's stories as well. And I just guess this is a bit of a tangent in a way, but also not, because a lot of women do struggle with anxiety and mood related issues. And I don't think many people realize the impact of either their natural or synthetic hormones and how that is impacting them.
Yeah, definitely.
So like, you've obviously noticed it in yourself, right? You've said that you've felt just better since coming off. And obviously you had other things going on at the same time, so it's quite hard to maybe draw correlations, but you did notice a difference.
I was so irritable before. Like I would be, my moods were just, I couldn't, you know, even it sounds so silly, other people might relate, but like if the duvet cover wasn't on correctly on my bed, I would be irritated. Like I was so uptight and irritated for a long time. And I think as I started to come off and like I was really noticing like a bit, like obviously my hormones were coming back, everything was getting a little bit more consistent. Yes, I obviously was taking better care of my nutrition and training and things like that, but like it was just a massive, I don't think it was like a point where I was like, yeah, this is amazing. But it was over time, I was like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. And oh, I'm not as moody. Like I'm so chilled. And like, you know, people wouldn't annoy me as much or, you know, and I was just, I was so chilled. And then I look back and go, okay, yeah, that was potentially why I was maybe uptight and stressed and overworked and overwhelmed and things like that. And I mean, there's lots of other things as well that I've done along the way, but yeah, I can really pinpoint that, I think.
I think it's a very challenging one, because I would never tell someone like, don't use contraception or don't do this. But what I would say to people is educate yourself on it.
Yeah.
Understand the impact of hormones and how that can impact training, nutrition, health and well-being. Understand what you're putting into your body. Because I've had a lot of clients who through education have actually decided, actually, maybe I want to see what I feel like normally. I actually want to see what my body can do naturally and how I feel, which I think is an amazing thing. I'm not telling everyone to just stop it and all have babies and blame me for population control.
You've got to be safe, but
yeah, probably not the best idea, but it does have a huge impact. And it's really interesting as well how in the past, like historically, women who had like anxiety, who had depression were like labeled as, it was always like hysterics, and it was always women who were that, not men. And I just find that very, very interesting, because that is all very much linked to the hormone side of things. And then you're basically putting that into, again, read that book, guys, if you're interested in all
I
that.
need to read that.
It's very fascinating. But understanding how that can impact your well-being is powerful as well, because like I'm in a boat now, like where I'm like bang on with nutrition, bang on with training, bang on with supplements, but because of the hormonal issues that I've got going on, my mental well-being has not been where I want it to be. And there's nothing more I can optimize from there, but that's because of how hormones can impact you. So again, this is a tangent, but I think I don't think we're very clued up, are we? Like as women on it's not until I got into fitness that I learned about the different phases of the cycle, how we should feel at different phases of the cycle, how long a cycle should be, when are you going to have fluid retention, what should you expect to feel at certain points, what's normal, what's not normal. I just knew you had to bleed every sort of 30 days. And if you were bleeding, then you were not having a baby. And that was pretty much it. I didn't understand anything.
Yeah. And like, even from what I remember at school, it wasn't anything that was actually useful. It wasn't anything that I can think, oh yeah, like we were taught. It was just, you know, even I at the age of 16 was like, yeah, go on contraception. It was like, well, why, you know, like why am I going through that? You know, it's the same with most people, heavy periods, headaches, go on contraception. And it's like, actually, it's just, it's not the right thing to do necessarily for everyone's situation. And I think, you know, we aren't taught about everything. And it for me, it's only the last couple of years that I've really, you know, taken that step to learn a little bit more, like having Sophie May come in and do bits and bobs and learning more from other people in different areas. And I'm nearly 30, so it's crazy, isn't it? But you also have to go on the aspect of, you know, when I was younger, you know, I suppose contraception was useful and it is still useful, but it would be helpful if we all knew why it was helpful, what we like, the ins and outs. Because I used to go to the doctors. I was on the contraception injection for like 10 years. And I used to go to the doctors and say, you know, I've been on this a while. Do I need a break? Do I need it? No, you're fine. And actually, if I'd have, you know, at that point known a little bit more about it, I could have had some more information and maybe had a break, or maybe got to know myself a little bit more. So yeah, it is kind of frustrating in some ways, but yeah, we definitely need more education on it, don't we?
We do, and I'm sure you're the same. You actually bring that with your coaching, right?
Yeah.
The
Definitely.
doctors won't. They'll just tell you go on the pill. It's like, no, it's not the answer. It's not the answer.
How many people just think though as well, like your coaching is just training and nutrition? Here's your plan, go off and get on with it. And it's
that's what it's become. Well, I think that's how it started, really, wasn't it? That's kind of what initially it was. Like a few PTs, like, well, you know, I can just deliver this across the world to people, or, you know, out of my local demographic. But I think it has now evolved so much more that it should be more than that, and it can be more than that. And I think because personal training is just the training session, you might get a meal plan. People think, oh, I'll just get those two things. And some people will deliver that, and that's fine. But for me, it's like, if I'm helping someone create a lifestyle change, how do I create a lifestyle change? I can't just do that through a diet and training plan. Yeah. It's looking at their health markers. It's looking at their mental state. It's looking at their mindset. It's looking at stress and sleep. It's looking at supplements. It's looking at time management and organization, and all of these things that is going to better your life. Because I'll say this now, and you'll agree that you could give someone a perfect diet and training plan. They could better their eating habits. They could lose some weight, but that's not going to improve their life.
No,
it'll benefit it a bit, but it's bringing everything together that allows them to have that desired outcome they have in their head. That comes with everything.
Yeah. And I at some point, I can't remember how old I was, but I did actually get my first coach, who I won't obviously name names, but like I was literally just given a meal plan and my training, and obviously where there was quite a lot of anxiety and, you know, mental health, that didn't really, it was great. I learned stuff from her, definitely, but it wasn't necessarily, you know, everything that I needed, because it didn't go into the aspects of maybe my relationship with food. You know, I wasn't sticking to the meal plan, but I was, you know, blaming myself for that. But it was because it was the same meal plan that I'd had for 4 weeks, and there wasn't any kind of movement in that. And I think, you know, we have to also go into like relationship with food. You'll probably know from your clients as well. It's not just, you know, here's your meal plan, go off and get on with it. It's actually looking into people's habits, people's structures, people's relationship with food and things like that. And it makes a huge difference. But, you know, for a long time, I would just go, oh, it's my fault. You know, maybe I'm not sticking to the plan. That's why I'm not getting results, or this was the reason why, but no digging deeper into that. Yeah. She's crying now.
Oh, she knows. Like, I'm not getting the attention I want.
She's actually fine if I'm stroking it. Come up then. No, she doesn't want to. She's fine.
I want your attention, but I don't want you, basically.
Yeah, she's like, she probably wants some snack or something. She's a nightmare.
Dogs and food. Amazing. So to kind of wrap up a little bit, if you were to speak to the youngest version of yourself, like 5-6-year-old Ashley, who's about to go into like teenage years and all that, well, not quite, but you know what I mean, you're going into that teenage years. Mm-hmm. What 3-4 bits of advice would you give her now as you to, I wouldn't obviously say to stop you going through, because I think the experiences we have shape us as humans, right? But if you were to avoid it or improve your mental well-being from the get-go, what like bits of advice would you say to them to do and implement from a younger age that would have maybe helped things along the way?
I think the first one was definitely be prioritize yourself, like prioritize you, because it makes a huge difference. For so long, I didn't really think about me. I was just like, you know, floating through life or whatever. And then I would definitely obviously say, you know, get some help. Don't do it alone, because for so long I did do it alone, and I didn't speak to anyone, and I just thought I was this big weirdo that had all these issues. And but then once you start speaking to people, you start to realize that so many people feel very alike. Like now talking about it, people go, oh, you know, it's great that you talk about it. And I'm like, trust me, like a lot of people feel exactly the same. You'd be surprised, you know, I always say this, if you're in a full room of people, you could guarantee probably about 50% know how you feel or have been in some scenario where they understand or they're empathetic. And then I think as well would be probably just going on. She's probably distracted me now. But yeah, I think it would just be like, keep going. Don't give up. Like a lot of times I would just give up and be like, do you know what, this isn't worth it, you know, whatever, and just sort of lay in bed all day and whatever. And some days there are days where you need that, but I think if younger me could see me now, they'd be like, no way, like you've got a job, like you're self-employed or whatever I am, you know, running my own business. And I think younger me would be very shocked at that and very wow. So I think it would just be a case of keep going, because it will come one day. You know, you will get that confidence one day as well. So there's only 3 there, but I think they're 3 pretty good ones.
We'll take those 3. I think that ends on a nice note. There's no point getting a 4th for the sake of it. Just 4th.
No,
Be happy.
Yeah, and I think don't worry so much. That would be my biggest thing, is that don't worry so much. But you can't just say that to yourself and go, yeah, all right, great. It's like someone going, don't worry about it.
I am worried about it.
You can't change it. So yeah, I think it would be don't worry, and it will all work out. But I think we'd all say that to our younger selves, wouldn't we? So
one thing I've learned working with TMP about the not worrying is that worry is typically something that lives from the past or the future. So anxiety is usually worrying about like what could happen, or worrying, creating that mental framework of this has happened before. So if I'm in a similar scenario, this is going to happen again.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's massively helped me is to just think, just forget the past.
Yeah.
Forget the future. What can I do right now? Like, I'm sure you've had the same self-employed business. What if every client leaves me tomorrow? What if this happens? What if I said, well, what if, you know, like anything could happen tomorrow. You know, my house could just like implode right now. This spider infestation that I've got, I don't know if you saw my story this morning on Instagram, mate, it's meant, I've got like so many spiders in my house. Like,
oh, stop.
Like they're big, they're everywhere.
Oh
what if they like, you know, take over and like eat me or something? I don't know. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Pretty well. All this shit could happen. But it could. You could also win the lottery tomorrow. You could find, you know, your grandparent could die and you didn't realize they were like the king of this, and I mean, and then they can give you all this money and you can go be a billionaire. You know, anything can happen. You can't change what could happen. You can only change what happens right now.
Yeah.
So live in the now, focus on what you can do for yourself right now, and you'll be ready.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I wish I could have just learned a lot quicker than I did. But then at the same time, I think, you know, like we always say, it's you have to go through them things to get to the other side. Like I wouldn't be here if I hadn't, you know, experienced all them things, you know, the anxiety and the things. So it's a blessing in disguise. And like we say, everything happens for a reason, doesn't it? As I know it can be tough when you're going through something really tough, but it really can. So yeah,
I believe so as well, because I'm similar to you, and here we are today.
Yes,
living our best life. And on that note, if obviously thank you for coming on. As always, if people can find you and want to find you and they've enjoyed listening to this, which they should go and support you after listening to this, where in the world can people, not your postcode, but where can people find you on socials and stuff if they want to go and give you a follow and support after this?
So my Instagram is Ashley AFRM Coaching. It's AFRM as in AFRM. Everyone always gets confused about that. They're like, what does that even mean? And what does it stand for? But that's a whole other story. So yeah, Ashley AFRM Coaching. And then, yeah, I've also got a website, which is www.affirmcoaching.co.uk as well. So yeah.
Amazing. See, I've only just learned that it's AFRM Coaching. I always thought it was something to do with your initials. I'm like, Ashley F, I don't really know.
I know, everyone says it. They're like AFRM, and I'm like, actually, it's AFRM Coaching, and no one ever knows. Like they always think it's, you know, it stands for something. A is for something, but no, AFRM Coaching. So yeah,
I think you are going to have to finish on just a quick why behind that.
Okay, so one, it was pretty much because I live by the rule of like affirmations, you know, that kind of The Secret and things like that. So when I was creating, obviously I used to be called Coached by AC, and as I obviously employed more coaches and it wasn't just me anymore, I couldn't be called Coached by AC, you know. So I wanted something that kind of stood for what, you know, what we do and what I stand for. And we kind of wrote all these letters down that really, you know, sort of meant something to me, and affirmation was on there, and it was just kind of like affirm. That sounds pretty good. So that's kind of where it comes from, and it stands with what we believe in. So yeah,
love it.
You see the dog crying in the background, but she's fine.
Great. Well, amazing. Well, we'll wrap things up there. Thank you as always for your time. So please guys, go drop her a follow after listening to this. That will be amazing. And as always, I will see you on next week's episode when I have another guest, because I have actually been really good and got some guests and been proactive. So
done.
Treating everyone. Have a great day, guys, and I'll listen to you. There's my slip up for the podcast. I also have a slip up for every podcast. So
always one.
Always one. I got it right till the end this time. I will see you, but won't see you because I'm just going to end it here because it's just a mess. Enjoy. Have a nice day, guys.